You know what? I think I'm going to do a take two on this video and see if I can talk faster without too much BS, as is my want. In this segment, we are going to discuss what I have been calling the era of shame. Now, I did a quick YouTube search for why did a lot of urban Indians want to hide their native ancestry, and I did it by image search. I didn't do it by normal AI Google search. I did Google, and what was really interesting is I found a whole lot of references to Black Indians and Black Indian families, which is really interesting. And then I also clicked on some other ones, some reasons why natives would want to hide their ancestry. Let's get into it. All right. Again, I'm going to expand and expound upon this talk about something that I have been calling the era of shame. Okay. Now, I define this as a period in Native history, both in Canada, well, I should say all three: Canada, USA, Mexico. And as you may or may not know, the Mexicans really razz their Los Indios down there too. They have all kinds of names and classifications of different types of people who are Mexican, and I guess I would classify as a coyote, um, or lobo. Lobo is the right term because I'm like mixed with all kinds of weird stuff, but native. And never mind, I'm getting off on a tangent. Let's go back to the definition. The era of shame is a period in Native history when many Indigenous families felt enormous pressure to hide who they were. Got it? It's so important, I better say it again. It shows up in literature as well. That's why I'm harassing you with it. The era of shame. I'm defining it as a period in Native history when many Indigenous families across the Americas felt enormous pressure to hide who they were. Now, let's expand, shall we? This wasn't because they were ashamed of their culture. No, it was because the world around them made indigeneity dangerous. Dangerous, okay? When I say era of shame, I'm talking about a long stretch, not only of the 20th century, but it all went way back to the 19th century as well. So we'll focus on the 20th century for now. The 20th century ranging from around the early 1900s all the way up to the 1960s, and for many families, even up to the 70s and 80s. And this time, the exact dates vary by region and by tribe, of course, but we need to know that the pattern is always the same for decades: being visibly, culturally, or linguistically native could cost you your job, your house, your family, your children, even your safety and your life. Okay? So, for many urban Indians, especially, the safest strategy was going to be silence. During this era, families also survived by passing. And passing is a term that you guys need to know. Passing is a kind of in this case, is a racial term where a person who is, let's say, Black wants to pretend to be white or Mexican, or in the case of that one crazy woman who was white and she wanted to be Black, so she darkened her skin, curled her hair. That's called passing when you're trying to go for another race. Natives did it too. Why would we want to do that? Again, pretend to be white, Black, Mexican, or just American, with air quotes again. You know, the old Heinz 57 sauce um, motif that we often use here in the Americas of North American multiraciality. Well, you see, I'm Scottish and I'm Irish and I'm German and I'm this and I'm that. That's, I'm a Heinz 57 sauce person. You hear that all the time. So we natives, especially urbans, we often did this as well. We wanted to hide our indigeneity. We avoided speaking languages, our native languages, in public, didn't teach children tribal stories. And when kids asked questions about their heritage, they always heard the same phrase: we don't talk about that in our family. Almost like the kids were asking where babies come from or something. But don't get me started. We're going to keep going. Let's stay focused. I got ADHD. Let's stay focused. So, this was not a personal preference. No, it was a survival role, or survival rule, I should say. Why did this happen? Again, there are several factors at work. First, societal scorn. Anti native racism was open and vicious. As our textbook author, Daniel Heath Justice, even points out, stereotypes painted indigenous peoples as primitive, dirty, drunken, uneducated, and uncultured, right? You saw that in our book. Many families, as a response to this, would hide their indigeneity, their identity, simply to avoid that daily humiliation, especially for their children. They want their children to be teased. I can recall, I'm sorry about the me, I stuff, grandparents wanting us to learn English because they didn't want us to be teased in elementary school and high school. So there was a kind of a tug of war going on with the grandparents. Some say, "Oh, we should teach them," and "No, we can't, we can't." So that was the kind of thing, especially in the city. Get back to another reason. Let's go to our reasons now. So we got anti-native racism was open and vicious. There's our one reason. The second reason is government persecution. Boom! Look at this title. Says here the U.S. stole generations of indigenous children to open the West. It's history. We know this. You can talk to Harvey, he'll tell you more stories about it. So, remember, we observed this before the era of boarding schools, Indian agents, and child removal, before the advent of the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978. Native children could be taken from their families for speaking their language, practicing the culture, or simply being poor. So silence became a shield. Third, economic pressure. Passing, again in air quotes, as non native could mean access to jobs, housing, opportunities that were otherwise denied. For many families, hiding indigeneity was the only way to survive in the city. Fourth, the sacred number. Some families concealed their identity to avoid being forced back onto the reservations, being told they belonged on the res. You guys stay here. And you may or may not know that back in the old days, um, a lot of times Indians were forced to stay on the res and they had to go to the Indian agent to ask for permission if they wanted to leave the res. It was like a concentration camp. You can talk to Harvey about this. Here's some other stuff. We've got this woman, Suellen Ocean, who is discovering the same thing about the era of shame that I'm touching on now, where the hidden in the family and people hiding it, the hidden history of Native American slavery also happened in Canada and Mexico too. It's all there. You can just do some searches and you see what I'm talking about. So, again, when I talk about this era of shame, I'm talking about not really cultural shame, it was more of colonial shame, shame imposed upon us from the outside. Families weren't ashamed of being indigenous. No, they were ashamed of how society treated indigenous peoples. and the effects linger to this day. Many of us grow up with parents or grandparents. Again, let's go back to that picture because I like it. It helps us. Who refuse to talk about our heritage. Many of us are reconnecting now that we're getting older and grayer and realizing, well, I'm too old to give an SHIT anymore. I'm gonna search my history. It's a new era anyway. And people can kiss my two-tone behind if they don't like me being native, right? So we got these people are reconnecting with traditions that earlier generations had tried to hide. Many of us are piecing together family histories that were deliberately muted for safety. The era of shame isn't about cultural loss, it's about survival, and as Visner might say, survivance and protection under hostile conditions. And now, generations later, we're finally able to speak again, openly, proudly, and without shame. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I like this version better. I'm going to kill the other one that I made. I was stumbling all over the place, and you can already see I wiggle too much because I got ADHD. But never mind, we won't go there. Thank you so much for your patience, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Stop.